Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide, and in today's video we're going to be addressing what can we expect from the upcoming successor to the A5X. The A5X2, Supernote A5X2 has been announced that it should be coming out in May-ish this year. Hopefully, we will see. And Supernote or Ratta have actually released some details that I covered in a video a couple of weeks before, in basically what they've said and what they've addressed and what are the news regarding the upcoming A5X2. And in this video, I just wanted to kind of go through all of these and see what can we expect from the Supernote A5X2. And people kind of ask, like, is it worth waiting for the A5X2? But before we actually dive into that, two things. One, if you're not subscribed and you do like the stuff that I do, please do subscribe. It doesn't cost you nothing, you just think, and it does help a lot to the channel. And the second thing is, if you do like the independence of the work that I do, because as you noticed, there are no sponsors here, there's no sponsored content or anything like that. Integrity is the #1 commodity here. Then please do consider checking out the mydeepguide.com/shop, where you can find MDO and MMP, which are two hyperlinked PDF files that help you organize your entire yearly, quarterly, weekly, monthly, daily needs in the case of MDO, or in the case of MMP, My Deep Guide Meeting Planner, to simplify, centralize, and organize all of your meeting planning needs. If either of these actually sounds like an interesting thing for you to check out, please do check out the video playlists that are in the description below, where you will find detailed videos that describe everything that these products are and that they are not, so that you can determine if this is something for you or not. And now, onwards with the video. Alright, so since we need to kind of guesstimate at this point, we need to take the facts that we have at hand and what we know, and then see what we can actually maybe infer what to expect from the upcoming A5X2. To begin with, I'm just gonna first compare and contrast the A6X with the A5X, because that gives us a good kind of a yardstick to see how these translated to each other. So right off the bat, let's just take the Nomad out of the way, and if we have these two here, it's very, very clear that they are basically the identical device, simply scaled up. And no matter where you actually look at these devices, they're exactly the same. Same white cover, same single stripe, same color of the white display, same bezel kind of a design, even same kind of a thickness, and even from the back, they look pretty much the same. Same mounting mechanism for the flipbook cover, Supernote logo here, slightly different coloration, just a little bit of a different coloration here, but to all extents and purposes, you know, they are pretty much exactly the same type of a device. So that leads us to believe that Ratta's approach, at least when they were doing the A6 and A5 and the A6X and the A5X, was basically the same thing. This is our design. It just comes in two different form factors. Okay, so that's our starting point, with what we have currently. Now we add this guy into the mix, and since we're going to be comparing, we know that the A6X is the same. Let's start comparing these two and see what the generational shift is and what we can expect to transfer from the A6X2 or the Nomad onto the upcoming A5X2. So the very first thing that I think that we're gonna definitely see is the addition of the second stripe. So I think that the A5X2 is going to have the same two stripes here. The second thing, I believe, and I really hope, that they are going to match the off-white gray kind of color. So it's no longer white, but it's actually kind of gray like the Nomad or the A6X2 is. The third thing that I also really hope that they're going to do, and I'm pretty sure that they will, is the equal width of the bezel for the sides and the tops. And that is because the A6X2 has an accelerometer and the operating system has been updated in such a way that the system can seamlessly work in portrait or landscape mode. This is something that I think will transfer onto the A5X2 as well. So we will not have this whole thing, we will probably have it a little bit less. I don't think that we're gonna have a difference of height, so I think that the device is probably gonna have the same kind of a footprint. As far as the physical looks on the front, I think that that's what we're going to have, and we're definitely going to have Feel Right 2. So it's not going to be Feel Right 1, it's going to be Feel Right 2, which is a little bit more paper-like according to what they say, but to me it's not paper-like, it's just a little bit of a rougher surface than when compared to the Feel Right 1. So that's the front covered. Sides, not much to talk about there. We can't really guess anything there. On the back, well, this is a crystal version. So the white version would be fully white with a little cover here. And I believe that the same methodology or same kind of thinking of repairability and the ability to easily exchange a battery or maintain basically your device will transfer onto the A5X2 as well. So it is not unreasonable to expect that we are going to see hopefully a crystal version of the A5X2 as well, which would be very, very nice. But at the very least, we are going to have the back cover that is pryable so that you can open it and get the access to the exchangeable components and the SD card slot. Now, I hope that in the A5X2 they will redesign where the micro SD card slot is, basically the access to the micro SD card slot, because that is one of the negative points on the A6X2. Now, another thing is that we no longer have this physical notch which was used to basically attach the flipbook cover physically to the device. That is no longer present on the A6X2. Instead, we have these magnets which are kind of nicely recessed, and that plops into the cover very, very nicely. And it holds the device well. It's never going to be as good as a mechanical thing, simply because it's magnets, but it's good enough, definitely good enough for most use case scenarios. So I think that we're gonna expect the same kind of approach, but they mentioned something different. And I don't think that we're gonna have this kind of a setup, simply because what they mentioned is in their design announcement about the A5X2 is it's going to have a half flipbook cover approach. So full flipbook cover covers the back and the front, you flip it around and that's it. Now, they were talking about the lightness and the weight and everything and the thinness, so they probably want to keep the A5X2 thin, it's like super thin, and they are opting for what they seem to call a half flipbook cover approach. So I was thinking, like, what could that be? And most of the users kind of implied the thing that basically this is Kobo Ellipse 2E, and they're employing this kind of approach, which is kind of interesting. And that's basically, you can see that we have the back of the device. We do have this kind of addition here, but there's only a front cover here that flips around, and then when you're done, you flip it back, and that's it. And this is a really nice kind of approach. I'm not a fan of it sticking out this much on the back, so hopefully what I'm hoping that we're gonna see on a Supernote is actually that these guys are maybe somewhere here to the side and a recessed kind of notch, and that maybe when you actually add it, there's going to be probably something like this, flips around to the front, and it would be absolutely totally terrific and fantastic if they were able to actually create the design in such a way that when you have the flipbook cover, that it's actually flat, that it doesn't have that bump. Whether or not that's possible to do, I really do not know. Additionally, I think and I hope that we are going to see the transition of both the USB charger and the power button moving onto the same side, so that you don't have charger here and a power button there. That's something that I really like with the Nomad, and I hope that we get to see that as well on the A5X2. So that's kind of design wise what we can expect. As far as specs go, there's no real guessing, and unless they really surprise everyone, basically A5X2 is going to use the exact same motherboard, everything exactly the same from the Nomad, just in this bigger format, right? So it's going to be the same 32 gigs of storage, 4 gigs of RAM, and 4 quad core CPU. And if they're using the same motherboard, that means that the location of the microSD card slot is going to be the same here, because this is the device, right? So they're just gonna plop that, put it in there somehow oriented, and yeah, then put everything else. So yeah, performance wise, I think it's going to be pretty much same kind of bump up as you had from the A6X and going to the A6X2, which was considerable. That's something that I did not expect, and even now, if I go back from the A6X2 back to A5X, I can actually see the performance bump and just how much more responsive and snappier the device is. It's still not something that I would characterize as a super fast device, but it's definitely a generational shift up as far as performance and snappiness and responsiveness goes when we see on the A5X. So I expect that same kind of thing to translate on the A5X2 as well. Additionally, we're going to have an accelerometer, as I mentioned, and all that kind of stuff, so auto rotation, which is great. And we also have a confirmation that the A5X2 is going to have a 300 ppi screen, and that it's going to be slightly larger than it is on the A5X. So slightly larger? I don't know. How slight are we talking about? That remains to be seen. We will actually have a much better screen, and much better performance, and better overall, well, basically everything on the A5X2. At least that's how it seems. Now, as far as the pricing goes, I think the reasonable thing to expect is that it's going to be $100 more than the equivalent of the A6X2. So you can just check out the prices. I mean, just the device itself, the regular version of A6X2 is now $299 US. That's without the pen, without the cover. So that's your base price. So that's going to be like probably $400, and then you start adding everything on top. So I think when you add, you know, a standard cover and a regular pen and all that kind of stuff, you're easily going to be looking at a $550 range. And then depending on the store and where you are, you need to account for shipping or additional tax, but that's a different thing. That depends where you are, which store you use, etc. But the base price, I believe that you're going to be looking at $400 for the unit itself, and when you tack on the extras, not the fanciest but regular extras, probably something around $550 US range for this, which is definitely in the upper echelon of the prices. It's not the most expensive one, but it's definitely not the affordable one. So it's kind of higher mid-tier price range for these devices. Okay, so that's basically what we can infer and what we can kind of conclude and hope for from the upcoming A5X2. Should I wait for the A5X2? You need to consider, like, what are your considerations and what are your priorities. If the question is, do I think that the A5X2 is going to be a better device than the A5X? My answer would be most definitely yes. If A6X2 is anything to go by, then absolutely. So if you were holding out and you wanted to get like a second-hand or a refurbished A5X, and you don't know if you should go for this one or wait for the A5X2, absolutely definitely wait for the A5X2, because there are strong indications that it will be quite a lot better and quite a big of a step up from the A5X. If your question is, Should I get one of the Boox devices? I don't know, Supernote Air 3 or Supernote A5X, or should I wait for A5X2? Well, that's something where I can't really give you an answer, because that's something that you will have to decide on yourself, on your own, simply because they are a little bit different. They have different strong points, different weaknesses, pretty much a lot of things are different between the Supernote A5X2 potential one that's coming out and, let's say, Supernote Air 3, or if you're considering a Kindle Scribe or Remarkable. Now, with the Kindle Scribe and Remarkable, I can actually give you an answer. I think that you should wait, definitely. So if you are prepared for a higher price that the Supernote definitely will have in regards to, let's say, the Kindle Scribe, definitely will be more expensive, but it's worth it, and it's worth the wait. As far as Remarkable 2 goes, yes, Remarkable 2 is a little bit cheaper. When you add things up, it's just a little bit cheaper. It's not a huge difference, but there is a difference. But it's Supernote A5X is most definitely going to be worth the differences, because Supernote A5X is already worth the price difference. So X2 should only increase that value even further. So the only question is, if you're wondering between one of the Boox devices and this, then you have to do your kind of valuing of what are the pros, what are the cons, what are the needs, what are the wants, and then you can kind of combine that and see what you want. General piece of advice, if you're just asking right now, should I wait for A5X2? That gives me an answer to another question, which is the most important one, and that is, do I need a device right now? If you need a device right now, that is not even a question for you, because then you need it. But if you want a device and you can afford to wait, well, then the question itself is kind of redundant, isn't it? Because if you can afford to wait, well, then just wait. It's not important, is it? So then you can definitely afford to wait until the device comes out, and then you see how the reviews are, how the device actually is, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it just comes down to, if you're asking yourself the question, should you wait for the A5X2 to come out or not? The answer is yeah, no matter what. No matter if you decide to go for it or not, yeah, just wait for it, because it's coming out soon and it's a viable contender. I hope that you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and ding the notification bell in the description below to get notified when new videos come out on My Deep Guide. And also, please do let me know, what do you think and what do you expect from the A5X2? What do you think is going to happen, and what would be your priorities for considering it or not considering it? Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!